Hi guys. Hey, how you guys doing? Today I want to talk about something what I have discovered through an insight by just listening to a content. And that is, I was watching a black and white movie. I think it was done in the 1950s, and the documentary was about education documentary about the sunlight and the function of thermal energy. Thermal energy means heat, right? Thermal energy means heat and energy through sunlight. So I was listening to it, and I was watching it, and it was in the beginning very boring, but then he came to a subject which he just briefly went through, but that briefly caught my most attention in the whole movie. And as you said, it was an education film movie in the 1950s. And when he said that, a whole series of function network created in my brain, and I understood the whole thing in a second. And this is why I drew that, and I'm going to explain you that. So in that video, it was about the sunlight, how the sunlight gives us energy and power. Energy and power, right? Energy and power. And so the brief introduction, what he did, I drew it over here. So it called the thermal couple. This is the sunlight. The briefly presentation, what he did, called the thermal couple, and it was just like a 2-3 minutes. But out of the 1 hour movie, those 2-3 minutes grabbed my attention, and in an instant I had an insight in the whole series. And the series, I will tell you what affected in my brain. I will tell you that according to my design here. So he was saying it called the thermal couple, and the thermal couple works like this. And what the thermal couple does, it creates a slightly current of electricity. So sunlight creates power, energy, and electricity. That's very important to know. With the sun, we get electricity, power, and energy in all fields. Translated maybe in a different way, but it has all three the same. It comes to all three: power, energy, electricity. So it called a thermal couple, right? So he was saying, so what he said is that if you put copper and iron and you put it on an electric meter, and the sun hits the copper and iron on the surface, then it creates a current of electricity. I want you to be aware of copper, iron, and current electricity. Be very aware on these on that. So he was saying if you put copper and iron and the sun hits on it, it creates a current electricity. Here, slightly current electricity. If you put copper and iron together, and they are all, and both ends, they're connected with the wire, you see that there's electricity going on. A currency flows between those two, but only, he says, only as long as one side, which is, I did it here, shadow, one side is in the shadow or in dark or shadow, and the other side has to be in the sun. Only then the current electricity flows through it. And that when he said the shadow, dark, and the sun has to be half and half, like one side of the half has to be in the shadow, and the other side of the half has to be in the sun. So this is the copper and iron, right? Copper and iron. This is the half. One side of the half is in the shadow, which is this side, and the other side has to be in the sun, which is this side. And the sunlight, when it shines on it, the light, it creates thermal. That's why it's called thermal couple. and then it creates a current of electricity. And that knocked me out. When I heard that, when he said has to have half in the shadow, half in the sun, and copper and iron, that blew me literally really off, because it was sending a wave in my brain that I will explain you from now on. It makes all sense. So that means through thermal couple, through the sunlight, created by the sunlight means the thermal, this warm energy. We got electricity direct from the sunlight. That means if now you see this in a mechanical presentation, right? In a mechanical presentation, you put a part of copper, part of iron, put there, zip it on a wire, and you see there's electricity currency flowing through it. If half side is in the shadow and the other half side in the sun. So now, I was transforming this in a bigger scale. So from a little mechanical thing, it just say this is the size of this mechanical presentation, iron and copper, etc. I put it in a bigger scale. Now, and that blew my mind. And don't tell me now you know all that, because you don't know, and that's why I'm telling you. And that's incredible. So when I watched that, it created a whole reaction, and which I'm going to tell you right now. It makes sense. If you look of our planet, the planet Earth, the planet Earth is always on one side in the sun, and on the other side is always in the shadow. By simplicity understanding, that tells me that our planet Earth is in a current electricity constantly. Why? Because the planet Earth, half of the Earth of the side is always in the shadow, and on the other side of the sun of the planet Earth is in the sun. And by rotating it, that our planet Earth, the planet Earth, is a currency of electricity. Period. That's just simple understanding, not mathematical and all. It's simplicity understanding. So I put it now on a bigger scale, which is the planet Earth. That's the reason why we have half in the shadow, and the other half is in the sun. That's why we call it day and night. But because of that, there's a currency of electricity going on our planet Earth. Without electricity, you see here, you plug in something. Very interesting. And that brings me back what Nikola Tesla mentioned. It just popped in my head that he says that the planet Earth itself is a currency of electricity. Now it makes sense because I understood it and he was right. So then I was going further. So I found out our whole planet is actually undergoing all the time in a current electricity, because the Earth, planet Earth, is always half in the dark, in the shadow, and always the half side of the planet Earth is in the sun. And that creates electricity, a current of electricity. Why? Because the planet Earth has copper and iron, right? Right. So you got that. That simplicity understanding, which most people cannot do because they have to do mathematical physics equation, and so they just fall in their own deepness, but they don't understand the simplicity of it, and that's the amazing thing. So then I went further. So I brought it up on a bigger scale. Now I was thinking about where else is copper and iron, right? Copper and iron, and I want you to remember on the top of it, it's about the currency of electricity. And electricity is created by thermal heat. And if a copper and iron is involved into it, it creates electricity. You have to understand that. Now, I did my own research and I found out that copper is a very high thermal electricity conductivity. It means it creates electricity and makes the currency. And it's used as a conductor of heat and electricity, right? And copper is found as a pure metal in the nature on our planet Earth. And this was the first source of first metal to be used by humans. The main areas where copper is found in humans are liver, muscle, and bones. There was the copper. Now iron. I want you to really connect those dots together, and it's something really amazing taking place. Now iron. Iron, we just talked about copper. Copper is, we have that in liver, muscle, and bone. It was in the first, and it was, the copper is found as a pure metal in nature. So our planet Earth has copper, and it is was the source of the first model to be used by humans. And the main areas where copper is found is in liver, muscle, and bones. And copper is a very high thermal and electrical conductivity, a conductor of heat and electricity. Now iron, right, that's the other part. Iron plays an important role in biology. So iron throughout the body is in tissues, muscles, bone, blood, proteins, and tubes, and transport in plasma. So the mechanical representation was this little thing. I upscaled it in a bigger scale, which is the planet Earth, copper and iron, shadow, and sun creates the currency of electricity. So our planet Earth is constantly on a current electricity. Now, the human body has copper and iron, right, in it. What are we doing? Daytime, we are awake in the sun, light. It's all about warm energy. The heat, the thermal heat, it's all about thermal heat. Daytime, we are outside, we get heat either to the sun or we are in warm area place. Our own body produces heat, 37 degrees. And at nighttime, when it's dark, we sleep. Shadow, sun creates current of electricity. That means that the human body itself creates, we are also constantly under current of electricity, because we are at night when we sleep, and on the other side we are in the daytime when we are awake, heat and light. Both together, as we've seen here, called you yourself is a thermocouple, which we are also constantly under current of electricity. It's just astonishing. Okay, now we got the mechanical function representation of this education movie, 1956 or 1954. By watching that, those 2 minutes he briefly just scratched on it, that triggered out the whole series of all these things what I have explained to you right now. So bigger scale, our planet Earth. Half side of planet Earth is in the sun. Half or the other side of the Earth is in the shadow. It creates current of electricity because it has copper and iron. Nikola Tesla was right. We human beings have also copper and iron. We experience the night when we sleep, the dark, and we experience the daylight. Thermal energy in our body has a thermal energy of 37 degrees Celsius, which means we also undergoing a constantly current of electricity. Right, so we got a human, planet Earth, the mechanical function, the core of the function, upscale to the planet Earth, and similarity scale to the human being. Now comes the very interesting part. You hear it maybe? Money. A dime, 25 cents, etc. has exactly the same thing, and we call it currency. Now, I did my own research, as you see here, and here's what I drew, is a $1 has a composition of copper. A $1 has a composition of 91, let's say 92% copper. A quarter. A dime, 10 cents, has 92 copper percentage in it too. And a penny has 2.5%. Now, let me tell you something. This is electricity, because it is constantly in our pocket. It's constantly under, either in the shadow or in light. It creates the currency of electricity. You have it on you have it here in your pocket, you have it in your wallet, and it's constantly, you have it in your hand. So there's a constantly a currency of electricity going on in the money, and we exchange it all the time. I buy something, or I give it to something, I exchange it. So that it's a currency flow of electricity, because it has 92% copper, and the iron is you yourself. You yourself is iron, and the earth is iron, and the copper is iron. That means the money has a currency of electricity, the human being is a current of electricity, and the planet Earth is a currency of electricity. And now, by understand all that, maybe some people won't understand what I'm trying to explain here, but this is something really astonishing what I have discovered. The currency of electricity. That's why the currency of, we call the exchange money currency, it makes so much sense. And I looked it up because I want to know where the most currency, did I print it out? No. But the most copper is in Chile. Chile, United States, and I think it was in somewhere in Europe. And that tells me that it's just amazing. It's just incredible that a 2-minute presentation, and I'm sure, I don't know if they're aware of the science or not, I don't know, but it makes sense. So everywhere, what you have to know is, fact, our planet Earth is always under electricity, because it has copper and iron, the planet itself. And through the heat, what our human body produces and the sun, it creates a current of electricity on our planet and in our planet, because half of our planet is in the dark, and half of our planet is in the sun, and it's always rotating. So there's always a constantly currency of electricity going on. The same thing with human being. We have iron and copper in us. That's why our human body is generated by power and energy and heat, which we have iron and copper in our body, that creates also a currency of electricity. The money, the currency of exchange money, all the money we're carrying around has copper 92%, and we carry it in our hand. We have it in our pocket. It's always undergoing a heat, thermal heat, and day and night, a day and light, which creates electricity. That's why who has the most money has the most power, because it has currency. It's really astonishing. And what is really interesting is that Chile has the most copper in their mountains and all that. Chile. And it was USA, something in Michigan in this area, and I don't know these other two. They were like, there's a list. So if you go, it's very interesting. If you type in internet, where are the most copper compensations on planet Earth, you see then a rank list, I think from 1 till 13 or something, and Chile was number 1, and USA was number 4, something like this. So it's like really a rank race going on. Very interesting, copper. So I know now that we are constantly under current electricity, and I think Nikola Tesla was right. And if our human body has a combination of iron and copper, and we know that it's called a thermal couple, and we are also experience the shadow, which we sleep, the dark, and in the daytime we outside at work, makes sense, work, the sun, it creates a current of electricity in ourselves because we have in shadow and have in sun. Same thing with the money. Money, you have it in your hand, or you have it in your pocket, or in your wallet, in your purse, and it creates this thermocouple, meaning there's an exchange of currency of electricity going on. And so that tells me also that the moon is also half on the half side of the side is in the shadow, and the other half is in the light. So that tells me the moon has also electricity. I think more and more that electricity, but see, the thing is, if we think now in electricity, we think it in wire, computer technologies and that, but it's because we have manifested it, we have replicated. But just imagine there's no computer, no TV, nothing what has to do with technology, and just our pure humans, planet Earth and the sun, and all technology is gone, we still have a foundation of a current electricity going on. So remember now that everywhere where is copper and iron close together, and they're undergoing a dark and a light, or light and dark experience at the same time, there's a current of electricity going on. Very, very interesting. And I think now it's very interesting to understand, and it gives me now a whole different perspective of exchange currency with the money. It's very, very interesting. So thank you for watching.